Hello, and welcome to volume, area, and algebra. So this is just going to be a short video to show some examples about how you're bringing all your skills together. All right. The first example is a rectangular prism like this one. And instead of numbers, we now have variables. So we know that the volume of a rectangular prism is base times width times height, or length times width times height, just as long as you multiply those three dimensions together. And so here we've got 2x, and I'm going to use the dot for multiply. Multiply that by 3x, and multiply that again by x, okay? Now here's where you're going to need your skills from class 6, because you not only have to multiply the two numbers together that we have here, which is 2 times 3, which gives us 6, but then you're going to have to multiply the variables. And x times x times x gives x cubed. So you need to remember those exponents. So I'm going to just write that a bit more clearly. The volume here is 6x cubed. All right? So that's our final answer. We don't know what units these are, so we're not going to write any down because it does look a little bit complicated with the variables sometimes. So, a cylinder, same kind of thing. You just use your formula and you, instead of putting the numbers in, you put the variables in. So, for a cylinder, you might remember that it's pi r squared times h. That's the formula, okay? Now, pi is 3.14159, blah, 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 blah. But we're just going to use the pi symbol for now. So, pi multiply by, and instead of using a dot here, I'm going to use parentheses because you need to know both, okay? Sometimes a dot is multiply, sometimes a parenthesis. So our radius, as it says over here, is p. So I'm going to multiply pi times p squared. And then the height is 3p, okay? So I need to multiply all of these things together. Now, we leave the variables to last and we do the numbers or the constants first. So we want to do pi times 3. Now you can write pi times 3, but what's more sophisticated is writing it as 3 pi. And then we have p squared times p. So that's p times p times p, which is the same as p cubed. You might remember from 6th grade that you can just add the exponents when you multiply. So that would be a 2. And what's invisible here is a 1. So that would be a 1. Okay? Okay, so this one is a little bit harder because if you look at the different dimensions, this middle one here, this x plus 10, is a bigger expression. It contains 2 terms. So that can cause a little bit of more room for error. So again, we're using the same formula, length times width times height. And so I'm going to do the 2 dimensions first that are smaller. So I'm going to do the 2x, using parentheses here, multiplied by the 2x. And then lastly, I'm going to do the multiply by x plus 10. Okay, so when I multiply the 2x by the 2x, I can do the numbers first. So 2 times 2 is 4, and x times x is x squared. And then I'm going to still need to multiply that by x plus 10. So this is where we distribute parentheses. But just be careful with the exponents. You've done a lot of distributing parentheses this year, but be careful with exponents. So arrows to help us go from outside to inside so everything gets multiplied. Let's do the small arrow first. So we've got 4 times x squared times x. And then the larger arrow is your 4x squared again, times that by 10. Okay? Now, look, we can simplify what we've got. It's the final correct answer, but it's not the final simplified answer. So 4 stays as it is because it's the only number here, only constant. And then x squared times x, remember, to add your exponents, that's going to become x cubed. And then over here, you have the 4 times the 10. 4 times 10 is 40. And then the variable is x squared. All right, so this is my final answer. Some people here might try and add them up. However, you can't do that because they are not like terms. The 3 here makes it an x cubed. The 2 here makes it an x squared. They are not like terms. They are different. All right, now this is the last slide. And the reason I put this one in here is because there's a fraction in here. And I just want you to treat fractions in the same way. So the volume of a rectangular prism is length times width times height. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to use parentheses. So the first dimension multiplied by the second dimension multiplied by the last one. Now, fractions, when you multiply, hopefully you remember from class 6 that you just multiply along the top and along the bottom. If you want to do something here to make life easier for yourself, you can put the whole number over 1, just to see that it does have a denominator. So, go along the top, and you're going to be multiplying x times x times x times 2. So separate the numbers, there's just a 2 there. And then think about the variables. So x times x times x, that gives x cubed. And then on the bottom, we've got 3 times 1 times 4. That gives me 12. Now, something you want to think about here is, can I simplify the fraction? Yes, you can. Look, 2 over the 12. They're both even, so they can definitely both be divided by 2. So that would give me 1 over 6 for the fraction part, and x cubed is still on the top, but this looks a bit funny because the 1 is on the top, so you can just write that as x cubed over 6, and that would be the final answer here. Remember, you can rewind this video, pause it at any point, use it to help you with your own problems, okay?